All right, we'll get going. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you joining us to learn more about Cushing Academy and all that is offered here at the school. We are joining you tonight in a virtual revisit panel, interactive conversation with some of our students, some of our leaders in the school, both on the student side and academic side. My name's Dr. Randy Bertin. I'm the head of school. I've been here for 2 years. I have 2 children here at the school, currently a junior and a sophomore, and an upcoming 9th grader into the school, and really happy and honored to be head of school here at Cushing Academy. During this challenging time, we've really been trying to come together as a community. And ways that we can do that is to come together to show our community to you online, albeit virtually. That's what we're committed to do tonight, to try to bring Cushing to you and show you the wonderful parts of our community, talking to some adults, talking to some students, and just getting to know us a little bit better as you make this decision, this important decision about your schooling for next year. So as we begin, I'll have our panelists introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves, their role here at Cushing, if they're students, maybe programs they participate in, and we'll start that way. You have a chat bar on the right-hand side of your screen. That's how we'll take questions. So feel free to type those in, and we will, I'll sort through those and answer them and probably pass a lot of them off to our panelists. Our students sometimes have some of the best answers, so we'll let them take those, but also Mr. Josh Doyon, Dr. Willis can answer those as well. So I will pass it on to Dr. Willis, who will do introductions, and we'll go from there. Jen?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bertin. Hi, welcome everybody. Congratulations on your acceptance. Very exciting. It is a bit odd to be doing this virtually, but thank you for joining us. My name is Jen Willis. I am the Director of Teaching and Learning here at Cushing. This is my 3rd year here. I also oversee our academic support program. I'm happy to field questions about academics broadly, and also about the academic support program in particular. Also on campus, I work with our varsity field hockey program. I coach our JV girls basketball team, and I live in Lee House with my wife and our 2 young boys. So happy to have you here, and how about I kick it to Josh Doyon.
Great, thanks Jen. Welcome everyone. My name is Josh Doyon. I'm the Director of Student Affairs here at Cushing Academy. And really what my role is here at the Academy is really working with students to really think about what our student experience is. So that's working with our proctors in the dorms, it's working with, it's overseeing our weekends, it's working with our advisors, it's overseeing our residential life program, and also working with our day students as well. I'm finishing my 4th year here at Cushing. I also teach in the history department, and I live in Lee House with my wife and our 2 young daughters. Welcome, and I'm going to pass it on to Anissa, who's actually one of our proctors in our dorm in Lee House.
Right. So hi everyone. I'm Anissa. I'm a senior. This is my 3rd year. I'm from Taka, Bangladesh, which is where I am right now. It's 5 a.m. So the thing is very strange for me. I am a proctor in the dorm, a student leader, a head tour guide, and among the activities that I'm involved on campus, I am in the JV basketball team, I dance, and I'm also part of the acapella club.
Hi everyone, my name is Grace McGovern. I'm a new sophomore from Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm part of the varsity field hockey and softball teams. I also do the winter musical, and I'm also part of the acapella club.
I'm Ryan. I'm a senior, been here for 4 years. I'm from Haverhill, Massachusetts. I play varsity baseball and JV hockey in the winter. I'm a proctor in Ash House, and I'm also a head tour guide.
Great. So one thing I'd like to add before we get going, and those who are attendees tonight can get ready, or you can begin to type those questions in the chat box on your right-hand side. But I do ask, this is our first time doing this webinar as a virtual revisit, virtual bringing Cushing to you. So just have a little patience with us. We might have technical difficulties, we might have some glitches, but we are committed to getting you to experience Cushing in the most authentic way possible, which I feel like is getting to know members of our community. So with that, I'll start to take questions from the attendees. We have 95 attendees in the chat, so in the webinar. So please feel free to type in your questions. I'll see them here on my end, and I will begin to answer those or pass them along to our students and adults. So as we're waiting for those to come in, maybe our students could talk a little bit about why they chose Cushing, because that's certainly on the mind of those in attendance tonight.
Right, I'll go first. So this is my first year at Cushing, and I transferred in from a different school. And a big thing that drew me to Cushing was all the new opportunities that I couldn't get. Something that was interesting at Cushing that I didn't have at my old school was the art facilities. We have like pottery rooms and glass arts that was never available to me at my old school. And also the ability to be able to do theater and sports at the same time is really important to me. So those are big things that drew me to Cushing.
Okay.
I think for me personally, I definitely agree with Grace. Cushing is a very well-rounded school, which is definitely a plus for me. But also when I visited on my tour, I really noticed the community and how everyone smiled at each other. It seemed like a very collaborative environment and something I wanted to be a part of. So that was a big factor for me.
I'd say I chose Cushing for two reasons. Both probably came visiting campus. One being, like Manisa said, that community feel where nobody's really, walks with their head down, face buried in their phones. Everybody's up, smiling, talking to each other. I always tell people, like we have 5 minutes in between classes, but it always takes at least 6 because, you're always talking to people on your way in between, catching up, saying hi. But also I'd say, going on my revisit day, panel discussions like this, just talking, meeting new people, I really got a good vibe from all them. And, just the honesty of the people on the panel kind of showed me what it would be like to be a student at Cushing, and I really, from day one kind of knew that it would be a good place for me. So.
Ryan, since you're talking, there's a question that came in I think you could help answer. It says, my son's never been much for team sports. Will that be an issue? What do you think as a student?
No, we do have an athletics requirement, right? I think you have to play one team sport a year. But there is different levels, obviously, for our athletes. So, for me, I remember fall my sophomore year, I needed a fall activity, and I played JV2 soccer. I am not a good soccer player, never have been interested in the game of soccer all that much, but it was an awesome time, awesome experience. Met a lot of new friends that way. And, it was kind of fun was fun just because we weren't taking it. It wasn't as competitive as varsity level sport, but we still went out there and had fun. But, I also never played hockey before. And since my freshman year, I played JV hockey, and it's been a blast. So.
And there are other ways to fulfill that team sport requirement. We offer things like badminton, trying to offer figure skating in the fall as a first-time offering next year. So other opportunities for team sports, and certainly for those who haven't played them before can join teams. Dr. Willis, question for you. How much is the workload for a new 9th grader?
Yeah, great question. It depends on the course load that you're taking, but typically teachers are assigning about 20 to 30 minutes worth of homework on a night before they have class the next day. And so we have a 2-hour study hall built in Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. And typically, and we can kick this to the students as well, typically that 2 hours is enough. Obviously, if students are taking sort of a more challenging course load, a more rigorous course load, it may exceed that, from night to night, especially if there's an assessment or a project, something along those lines. And so the workload varies, but teachers tend to be doing about 20 to 30 minutes a night. I don't know if any of you, Ryan or Manisa or Grace, want to chime in terms of what the workload, and maybe Ryan in particular, since you were in 9th grade here, thinking about what that workload was like for you.
Yeah, so obviously it was an adjustment period. Not having, your parents on you, making sure you're doing all your homework, that kind of thing. But the dorm parents in the dorm during study hall, especially during, your first 2 years or so, are pretty on top of you about making sure, you're getting your assignments in. But teachers also understand, what it's like to be a student here, and they understand, what we're going through, the challenges that we're facing. So, they're very supportive of us. They usually don't, force too hard. But, it is challenging at times, but, there's times throughout the day, free periods, kind of thing where, time management really comes into play. And you learn a lot about that through your time here. But if there ever was, like a issue where you really didn't think you were going to be able to meet a deadline, just a conversation with your teacher, usually you can work something out.
Great. Another question for Dr. Willis. What is the class structure like?
I'm going to answer that as best I can interpret, and if other people interpret it differently, please feel free to chime in. So the class structure varies class to class in terms of how a teacher is designing and organizing activities and that kind of thing. Obviously, our science classes in particular are going to be very hands-on, utilizing labs. Our English classes tend to be centered around discussion. So you'll find yourself in a lot of conversation with your peers about reading and other tasks that you've completed together. History similarly is going to have a lot of discussion, and Mr. Doyon, as a history teacher, you can contribute in that part as well. And so, you will find, lecture components here and there, and certainly in math, I think there's a fair amount of instruction that's happening with a teacher at the board. But I would say walking through most of our classes, and again, if there's an opportunity for you to be on a revisit day in the classes, unfortunately you're sort of missing that now, but you would see a lot of students involved in activities, involved in discussions, working together, doing more hands-on type things. And so if other folks are interpreting that question the same way, and students, you want to talk about sort of what a class feels like in terms of the structure of that time. Anybody want to jump in?
Well, I think you explained it pretty well. I don't really have anything to add, so that's why I was being quiet.
Okay.
Grace, you guys have anything?
I'd just say that I think Dr. Willis kind of hit it on the head, whereas like math classes and science are typically more, at the board, students sitting at their desks, learning material that way. Although science classes spend a lot of time doing like labs and fun stuff like that. And then your history and English classes, foreign language, are more like Harkness table discussion based, which helps, engage everybody into the conversation and helps everybody kind of participate in the class.
All right, so we're getting now a queue of questions. We have about over 20, it looks like, to answer. So there look like some ones that I can answer quickly. So I'll start with those, and then I'll put others out to our panel. The first one is, how many breaks do we get within the school year? So I'm interpreting that to mean different vacations or different time periods away from campus. Typically students arrive right at the beginning of September, early beginning of September, late August. We go for a few weeks until early October, usually have a long weekend. We in the fall, at the beginning of October, a Monday off. Another month or so, we have another Monday for our family weekend, a week for Thanksgiving, usually 3 weeks around the holidays, and then another 2 weeks of spring break where we are now, and graduation this year is May 23rd. So that gives you a sense of what the school year is like. Another question, how big is the ninth grade? The ninth grade this year is 70 students, and we anticipate a similar size for next year. Mr. Doyon, what does a proctor do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really what we ask our proctors to do, I think first it depends what dorm they're in. If they're in more of our underclassmen dorms, so our freshman and sophomore dorms, I think that they are really helping our new students to Cushing kind of adapt to the culture, really build healthy habits. and really see what that benefit is each and every night of making sure that they're using study hall effectively. But we also view our proctors as a lot of culture builders. And so they do a lot of, this year we have really pushed an idea called fundatory. And so our proctors are really trying to come up with events to I think, break up the week a little bit, engage students in some different ways, and also make it from each other. So it's not so much adult driven, but it's a little bit more student driven. And I think Manisa and Ryan can really speak to a lot of the initiatives and a lot of the things that they have seen in the dorms. I think, Ryan, you've been a proctor for 3 years now?
Yes. I love it just because, you know, you kind of just, from day one, you kind of get to meet everybody and know, you know, where they're from. I always look at it as like, you don't really know somebody until you know like where they're from, and at least 3 things about them. So as a proctor, you know, one of the first things you do when new students arrive on campus is get to know them and help them adjust, which is part of the reason I wanted to become a proctor, is because my proctors my freshman year made all the difference in the world in my adjustment to Cushing. But as Mr. Ryan said, working as kind of like a culture builder, the fundatory, I mean, there's countless stuff we do throughout the year in the dorm, like dorm dodgeball tournaments or a pizza party. We were in Ash House this year. We were huge fans of the Wii. If anybody remembers Wii Sports, we're a big Wii Sports dorm. So that was always fun to get all the guys down in the common room and get them having some fun. But as a proctor, I mean, you're kind of just working as that like middleman almost, where if a student isn't comfortable exactly approaching an adult about an issue, or even if they just have questions about, you know, that from a student's perspective, you can help them through all of that. And that was super helpful to me my freshman year. So I just wanted to do that for others.
Sure, great. Next question was, is there a virtual walkthrough of campus possible? So on the page that you registered for this interactive webinar called Reexplore Cushing, there's actually a few videos there. One's called Transform, which highlights some of the new buildings and construction we've done on campus and is a pretty good glimpse into the many buildings on campus. At the end of our conversation tonight, I'm going to look for additional messages that are going to come from the admissions office this week. And one of those will be a video sort of coming through campus that gives you even maybe more of an in-depth glimpse into the campus. So please look for that coming from the admissions office this week. But another great question. But certainly the page Reexplore Cushing has a lot there where you can see the campus to begin with, and more will be coming. For our students, maybe Manisa, you could take this one. What is your favorite annual event? Is there some type of tradition yearly that you
my personal favorite is the all-school handshake. So we have, now that I'm in the middle of a global pandemic, it doesn't sound like a great idea, but at the beginning and end of every school year, we actually have a tradition of meeting every single person, every student, every faculty in the school and shaking their hand, which is, now we know, unsanitary. Let's not do that. But I love it because, well, at first, the one we do at the beginning of the year, it's you just meeting a lot of new people, just getting a quick glimpse at them. And then at the end of the year, you kind of see how far you've come with those same people that looked new to you and you didn't have any idea about them. Because at the end of the year, it's less handshakes and more hugs and tears, and you kind of just see how your relationships with those same people has grown over just the course of 1 year together. So I think I really like that one.
Great. Yeah. Hopefully we can resume soon.
Right.
Yeah. Grace, how about this one for you? It's a student saying, since we won't be able to see the campus before making a decision, what do you love most about it? What makes it special in your mind?
I love campus. Since the first time I walked on it, the buildings were amazing, and I knew this is the place I have to be, because the first place I went was the softball field, and I love softball, so that was just like a special connection for me. But I just think that Cushing makes it available for everyone, and they have something for everyone. So from all the buildings, we have an art building, and we have a new athletic building, which has gyms and everything. There's always something that's going to cater to you, and I really like that about Cushing.
Great.
Can I share my favorite places?
Go ahead, John.
In the fall, when I walk down to get ready for practice, I walk through the bottom of the JRCAC, which on the top 2 floors have math and science classes, but on the bottom it's all of our performing arts and our practice rooms. And so as I'm walking to go get ready for practice, I get to walk by all of these rooms where students are getting ready for their afternoon activity with lessons, and they're sort of tuning up their instruments and playing. And it's just like this sort of 45-second moment of calm and peace, and it's lovely to hear the students. I'm headed out to the field, but these 10 or 12 or 15 students are engaging in their passion, and that's one of my favorite sort of parts of campus.
Definitely. Mr. Doyon, how can you describe how you help incoming students transition to their first year?
Yeah, that's a great question. And here at Cushing, we have really multiple entry points for our students. So first year could be anywhere from a freshman, sophomore, junior, or even a senior or a postgrad. And one of the things that we really think about is how can we really start to integrate that student right from day one. So one of the things, I think one of the most important steps that we take is to really think about what we call our advisor placement. So every student that comes to Cushing is ultimately assigned an advisor, and that advisor will work with that individual in a larger group for the whole course of the year. And so that person will check in on grades. They'll check in to see how your afternoon activity is. They're there with you with the good. They're there with you with the bad. But that person will really help transition. And if we do start to see some challenge, or we do start to see some struggle, then that's when the advisor really starts to act. And they'll either be reaching out to academic support, they'll be reaching out to the academic office, they'll be reaching out to student affairs or myself, or even our health center, or even parents. So that's one of the ways. Another way is just working with our student proctors, and making sure that people have someone to sit with at lunch, they have someone to go to go have a seat with at dinner, and they're getting out of the rooms on the weekends. And then from there, things just about the first 3 weeks of school, it is a transition. You as parents will be getting phone calls home saying, I hate this place. I want to come home. I don't know what decision I think I made the wrong decision. And then everything just starts to click right at the end. And it takes a little time, and it just takes that transition. But people here are working, people here are trying. And I think whenever we encounter something new, we're always a little concerned, we're always a little worried, but it always ends up good in the end.
Yeah, one of the things I'll add to that is we always want to be in partnership with our families and in communication with parents. And if, in the first few days you do get those calls, we like to work together as a team and put the supports into place. And there's a lot of safety nets certainly that we can raise and create the best possible environment for success for students coming into the school. Somebody asked, how is it, in 9th grade and 11th grade? And it's just very similar, using different safety nets appropriate developmentally for those students.
One of the things that we have in particular for our 9th and our 10th grade students as part of their built-in curriculum is a class called Connections. And so Grace or Ryan in particular, maybe talking about what that is. I'll sort of give a brief overview, but then you could potentially talk about your experience with it. And so Connections is a class that meets just once a week, but it helps acclimate students to boarding school life, to Cushing in particular. It talks about sort of the schedule that's going on week to week, but also really like habits of healthy living and building relationships. Grace, maybe would you talk about, you're in Connections this year?
I just joined Connections this semester because of my schedule, but what I've gotten from it so far is it's more, because I'm a sophomore, so it's a different curriculum from the freshmen. But what we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks is mainly like building relationships with each other and just like getting out socially. At the start of every class, she'll open the whiteboard and it'll say like the games this weekend, the activities to do. She'll say like go out and support this team. And it's mainly about just like connecting with the community and getting out there.
Yeah, Connections is a huge piece for the freshmen and sophomores coming in. I remember, my days in Connections, and Miss Stone, who teaches Connections, she is the sweetest lady on the planet, so she helps make everything run smoother. But yeah, I mean, you're in there with the same group of people every week, and you just kind of talk about, like, what's going on campus, what to expect. I remember, like, your first winter is always super hard. You get your cabin fever, whatever. But Miss Stone really helped prepare us for that, and showed us the light at the end of the tunnel, you could say. But it really helps when it's hard to explain, but like when you're first on campus, having that was super helpful.
Right. Dr. Willis, question: can you describe the academic support program and how it's integrated?
Sure, yeah. So academic support is offered as part of our larger academic schedule. And so our class schedule itself has 7 blocks. Students are typically in 5 or 6 classes. So academic support operates as that 6th or that 7th class block. So students aren't missing anything else throughout the day. It's built into the schedule. Students are typically coming into academic support as part of the admissions process. So if you're sort of watching this and wondering about academic support, now would be a great time to be reaching out to the person you're working with through admissions, or also feel free to reach out to me directly with questions. And typically it's a nice conversation through the admissions process to be able to learn about your student, or you if you're the student asking or wondering, and to share more. I can be a bit chatty, and so I might sort of give you a full overview of the program and talk to you about what it looks like day to day. But sort of generally, we're serving students who are looking for increased accountability and support. We have students who have specific learning disabilities. We have students where ADHD or executive functioning deficits may be something they're looking to strengthen. We have students who are working to manage academic anxiety more effectively. And so we have a really wide range of students who we serve well in the program. And I'm happy to talk more. I don't know how much depth to go into right now. We have 2 levels, and so we have students who work one-on-one. We have students who work in a small group. So there's a fair amount of flexibility. The program's been around for over 40 years, and so we find that we are able to serve students really well. And so if there are additional questions or more specific questions about particular students, I really welcome those questions potentially offline. And so you can definitely feel free to include contact information in the chat if you'd like me to reach out to you after the webinar, or if you're in conversation with somebody in admissions, feel free to definitely reach out to them as well.
Definitely. And one thing that I will also remind everyone at the end is that Dr. Willis, as well as Mr. Doyon and myself, are available for one-on-one conversations that you can schedule on the Reexplore Cushing page. So if you go there, you can sign up, and there are still times available to discuss items or go further into some of the questions we spoke about tonight, like academic support. All right, thank you. So we have 43 new questions, so I'm gonna go a little bit quicker because I know I don't want to keep everybody on here for a long period of time. So I'll answer a few that I can just go through, and then I'll bring it back to our panel. What are the typical class sizes? Well, our average class size is about 12 students per class. Some are bigger, some are smaller, depending on what your subject is. Certainly as this classes become more advanced, some of our bigger classes are AP as we prepare students to go onto the next level to colleges and universities. And Jen, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that would, that's we can keep moving, yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot there. Can any student try out for sports teams if they are not recruited? Absolutely. Ryan said earlier that he had done JV2, which is, we have different levels on our teams, varsity, JV, and some, if we have enough participation, JV2, or sometimes it's referred to as thirds. So if you just want to participate in a sport, it's pretty rare where you're not able to do that. Even students who haven't played hockey have done instructional hockey, JV hockey, who are new to skating. So certainly there's many opportunities to participate in a wide variety of sports. And many of our students are at that level, certainly. We see.
Looking at questions, I think I'm not totally following all the questions, but I do think I saw one about how many APs, and I think we have 16 AP offerings.
Great, thank you. Are postgrads allowed to bring their cars if they dorm? That is a no, sorry. Can't really expand on that one much further. Josh, what is the typical weekend like for boarders? Do a lot of kids stay on campus or go home on the weekends?
I feel that a lot of our students do stay on campus on the weekends, and the weekend is really how you want to use it. You know, we do ultimately have athletics on campus, but we also have director of student activities. And Donnie Connors is someone that our students will get to know very well. He is always thinking about just how to create fun and just how to bring joy into people's lives. And so I think Donnie has one of the best jobs on campus. And so what's great about Donnie is he never says no. So if you have an idea, if you want to do something on the weekend, just bring that idea to him. And it could be anywhere from doing community service to doing apple picking, to going to the mall, to going to the movies, or to even have like dinner trips to let's say McDonald's, or even some of our local restaurants here in Leominster, Gardner, or some other places. Weekends too are also just a time to relax. They're also just a time to kind of recharge. And so really where I see you know, our students is they're very active on Friday. They kind of take Saturday morning off when they have the opportunity. They get a little bit more active on Saturday night, and then Sunday is just kind of more of a day of rest. Again, they recharge their batteries. They start kind of getting ready for the week ahead. And you know, in addition to what Donnie does, I think our dorm parents and proctors work very hard to make sure that there are activities going on in the dorms, whether it be a movie, whether it just be, I think Manisa in her dorm, they've done things like spa night, or even like Ryan, I know they're always having cookouts in their dorm. So, you know, things are always happening. And it's really, you know, sometimes we're just trying to balance structure and then time to rest as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question I'll give to Grace. How do you balance art, sports, and then also your studies?
Yeah, so definitely during the winter season when I do the musical, things get kind of crazy because the musical takes up a lot of time. But I made it really important to myself to make sure that I keep working out and stay in shape for when I have the spring season. So what I did was I would work out in the mornings with our Power Source, which is a program we have where a trainer will give you a workout for whatever you want to work on. Like if you have special interests, he'll make a workout for you, and then you do that in the morning. I go at 6:30 twice a week. And then I also, sometimes if I didn't go to that, I would go after musical rehearsal. I would go work out in the gym and then go up to dinner with some of my friends. So I think it's just finding the time to go work out or do whatever you want with sports wise. But I know people that also do a sport at the same time that they do performing arts. So if you're on like a lower level team, you can definitely balance both. They make it work between both of the activities that you're going to do, which is definitely harder, but Cushing makes it available to you.
Great. Thank you very much. Dr. Willis, with students coming from all different academic backgrounds, how do you make sure students don't fall behind in the beginning of the school year in particular?
Yeah, great question. I think I would start by talking about just sort of how we schedule students, because we schedule each student individually. And so if you're coming into ninth grade, you don't just have like the ninth grade schedule and here you go. We're looking at where students are coming from, what the appropriate fit is for them. Similarly, if you're using a repeat year, same idea. You're not just sort of slotted into a particular grade, which gives you a set of classes. And so right from the start, we want to make sure that it's the right fit. On that same theme, we have an add drop period at the beginning of the year. And so I'm thinking about like a foreign language in particular, which can be a little bit more difficult to figure out what that right fit is, because if you're coming from a different school, what Spanish 2 looked like at school A, B, and C, it can all be a little bit different. And so we work to make sure that that fit is right during the add drop. And students are in touch with teachers, with advisors, with academic support, if that's part of their schedule, to make sure that that fit is appropriate. And then, as we get going, we have huge availability from our faculty for extra help. And so if there is a student who feels like the pace has gotten a little bit, moving more quickly, or they struggled with a specific component or unit of the class, it's very easy for students to schedule extra help sessions with teachers. And we have other services on campus in terms of peer tutoring and tutors as well. And so I'd say we start by looking to get the right fit for the class. And then if we feel like it is the right fit, but for whatever reason, we need to just add a little bit more support or structure, we have a variety of ways to do that as well.
Thank you. Next question I'll take. Do dorm parents and teachers work together to make sure students are doing okay in their studies if they're having a bad day, week, etc.? One of the things I talked about earlier is that communication and that we want to have a partnership with parents from the school and parents in support of our students. So all students have an advisor, and each advisor may have 6 or 7 advisees in their group. I know I have 7 in mine. And we're in regular contact, almost daily contact, about every part of their experience here at Cushing, whether that's academic, athletic, artistic, social, what's going on in the dorm. We have regularly scheduled advisee meetings that occur every Monday. We also have community lunch every Tuesday, which oftentimes is comprised of advisee groups where I get to sit and have lunch with advisees and get to chat with them and catch up. Also keeping track of their grades, in communication with their parents. But certainly, in addition to all of that, we encourage parents to be in communication with dorm parents, teachers, anyone that their student is interacting with at Cushing that really sets up that structure where hopefully we can help them achieve the success that. What are Wednesday afternoons set aside for? Let's take that. Ryan, you want to take that?
Games. Game day. So a lot of us on campus are athletes. And even if you're not, we got CA Super Fans, which is open to everybody. So, a lot of the schools we play are all the way down in Rhode Island or Connecticut or up in Vermont or even New York sometimes. So you got to make time to get there, and also for them to come to us if they're playing at home. So it kind of gives students that opportunity to go get their lunch, get on the bus and be able to get there and be back in time to do their homework at night. But also, if you don't have a game going on, everybody's out supporting whatever home games are going on. So that's what I mentioned before, CA Super Fans. My favorite part about Cushing is probably CA Super Fans. We do have a rowdy bunch, and we like to go out and support games, and we like to have a lot of fun doing it. And it's a lot of fun to play in front of it, too.
All right, we have 50 new questions, so I'm just going to go through these to try to get to everyone. Some we've already answered. Dr. Willis, does the school have placement tests?
Yeah, great question. So we have placement tests for new international students. So students who are coming in as new international students are going to arrive a couple of days early. They're going to have some orientation as part of that. And they do have placement tests for English language learners and also for math to help us make the appropriate placement for schedules and build schedules out. And so we do have placement tests in that sense. Otherwise, we ask for math recommendations, English recommendations as part of the admissions process. And thank you for getting those in, because we definitely utilize those in the course selection process. But we don't have placement tests in that sense. I would say the only other piece is that you can test into the honors level for the 9th grade literature and composition class or English class. But that happens midway through the fall. And so that's a little bit different than I think probably what the question is really asking.
Great, thank you. A few that I can answer here quickly. What is the class growth from 9th to 10th grade? Certainly 10th grade is another entry point for us, as many schools, particularly junior boarding schools and independent schools, go through grade 9. So we'll see maybe 20 or 25 new 10th graders each year. And the next question after that about new incoming 11th graders, we also see some new 11th graders, not as many, maybe 10 or 15 that come into the school. So if you are a new 10th grader or new 11th grader considering Cushing, you certainly will be in good company with other students beginning at the same time as you. Do students who participate in fall sports arrive at school earlier? The answer to that is yes. We have a 4 or 5 day preseason where our varsity athletes come to campus and participate in practices, getting ready for games, getting to know teammates. So that's another opportunity to get to campus in the fall and get ready as a team to compete in your sport. Another question, what are weekends like beyond sports? Josh, do you want to take that and start?
Sure. I think I might have answered it a little bit earlier, so I apologize if I'm repetitive, but beyond sports, again, this is a great time to catch up with homework. This is also a great time just to kind of explore the local areas and We also, too, what I forgot to mention before is that we have a student weekend activity team. So it's a great leadership opportunity as well for our students to think about how they want to craft their weekends, how they want to use their weekends, and how they ultimately want to balance homework, how they want to balance their time on campus, and how they just want to balance time with friends and just catch up and have rest.
Great. Next question, for students coming in senior year, how does the college process work? How does the school acclimate an incoming upperclassmen, and there are a number of students coming in senior year? I would say there's always a handful of new seniors coming in every year, and our college office works with them almost immediately, oftentimes before the summer, contacting them in the spring and over the summer, starting to talk about deadlines, testing, talking about the college process, how they can be supported here at Cushing, communicating with parents. So I would say once students decide that Cushing is the place for them when they're seniors, that contact is immediate and pretty constant until those applications are submitted in the fall. Another question about assisting students who are acclimating, which I think we answered earlier. So just because we have now 52 new questions, I'm going to keep going. Is there all ninth grade dorms or grades mixed in the dorms? Josh, you want to take that?
Yeah, so grades are mixed a little bit in the dorms. We really try hard to have our 9th and 10th grade students together and more of our upperclassmen together. And really the reason that we just try to do that is we just think about common experiences. We think about classes. We think about building friendships. And we just also think about just kind of the day-to-day life. And one of the things that we have come to realize here at Cushing is that our freshmen are having a much different experience than our seniors are. You know, and we do just try to, you know, really focus on freshman year, really focus on sophomore year. So as our students progress, they're building healthy habits. And when they're getting to that point where they're ready to embrace some of that responsibility, they have kind of built those, they just have really good practice. They understand why study hall exists, you know, and they can start to enjoy some of that freedom and responsibility too.
Great. Great. For our students, how's the food? Who wants to take that one?
I'll take it. I always say nothing beats a home cooked meal, right? But in my opinion, the food's good. And there's always options for everybody too. So there's, you know, a salad bar. There's always, you know, pasta, pizza, cold cuts, and they cater to like allergies. You know, if you're sensitive to dairy, that all of that. We also have ice cream, soft serve machine and hard serve. So, you know, if you got a sweet tooth, there's always desserts at dinner, which are usually unreal. So there's always options for everybody. And the food overall is pretty good.
Yeah, I would also add that we're, like Ryan said, in tune to student dietary needs, allergies, foods are labeled. We're always trying to meet student requests. We have a feedback board in the Commons where students can say, hey, we want more bacon, which sometimes is a request, or we want more of this type of food or that type of food. So it's definitely an ongoing conversation. There's an app with a menu, which also solicits feedback if students want to do that as well. So trying to always improve that program because we know it's important. Trying to look for, there's a few repeat questions here. A few questions about day students being integrated. Josh, do you want to take that one? How day students are integrated into the community as a whole?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. You know, I think our day students integrate very well into the dorm. I mean, or excuse me, just into the school. I mean, just as we continue, you know, just a lot of our day-to-day function, whether it's class, whether it's advisor, whether it's afternoon activity, whether it's sport, you're not really looked at as a day student, right? Everyone is a Cushing student. And so we actually see a lot of our day students, you know, who actually are here for breakfast, and they're all the way here up and through study hall as well. And we even work with families, you know, when there's bad weather coming, when there's big events on campus, or when there's just a need to have our day students here on campus. You know, we also work with our families to make sure that day students have a place to have a place to be in the dorm. You know, so families don't have to make that commute back and forth. And just in terms of day to day, we do have a day student room where every day student, you know, does have a locker where they can put their books, where they can put their things, and it can kind of be their home base for the day. Just to kind of have that similar parallel experience to kind of what our boarders have. And what's nice for our day students, it is in our main building. So, they are very central just to the day-to-day functions here at the Academy.
Great. Dr. Willis, what if a student is thinking about coming in as a ninth grader, as a ninth grade repeat, where they completed ninth grade but wanted to do ninth grade again? Does that schedule vary for a student repeating a year to a student who does that for the first time? How would we, the question is actually phrased, how would we work repeating a year compared to not repeating a year for a ninth grader?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So we have students who repeat in ninth and at other grades as well. And we, again, treat those on an individual basis. And so I would say if there are areas that the student is looking to solidify or revisit, we can make that part of the schedule. But those, we're not trying to, again, just sort of say, if you're in ninth grade, then you must take these courses. Frequently, unless the student has read really everything that we have in like the literature and composition class, we're going to have students be in the grade appropriate English and history class. Those classes are as much about the specific content, but they're also about the skills, research and analysis in history and, similar reading comprehension and the writing skills in English. And so, those may be the places where we say, yes, you're in sort of like that ninth grade English and history, but we've also had cases where that's not what we do. And we adjust based on what the student has had and what they're interested in doing. And so that's true in ninth grade. That's true for other years when students are using a repeat year. We know students use those differently, and we want to make sure that the curriculum meets the needs for how they're using that repeat.
Great, thank you. For our students, what's the biggest challenge to adjust to boarding life? Who wants to take that?
I'd say the biggest challenge coming in was not having mom and dad around. It's hard, especially for the younger students who, I came in at 14. So, it was definitely a bit of a bumpy road. But you have that support net around you with your advisor, your proctors, your dorm parents. They're all there for you to help you along the way. And everybody is kind of going through it together. I mean, you go through different. Obviously, it feels different for some people, but you are going through it together. But just the community of friends that you make and the relationships that you form with everybody on campus really helps to make that transition smoother.
I think the hardest thing for me when I came to Cushing was adjusting to having a roommate. I've always had my own room my whole life. So coming in this year and just coming back to your room after a long day and not being able to have just complete silence is that was something I had to adjust to. But over time, you learn to love that. When you come in from a bad day and your roommate's there, what's up? And you just get to talk about your day with them, and they're always there for you. And that's something that was hard at first, but I learned to love after a while.
Great. Thank you. Anything else to add?
I was just going to say, for me, it was the structure. At home, I actually wasn't used to just so much structure actually, but right now, I'm used to it, and I don't know what I would do without it. It was just bad because I'm going to college this fall, but I think it definitely helps you manage your time better and discipline yourself.
Great. Josh, a few questions about community service. Can you talk about how that works at Cushing?
Yeah, so community service at Cushing, we unfortunately won't have an opportunity to really move forward with our big community service day, and that's what we call Tony Fisher Day. It usually happens a day in April, and the whole school will come together and do a different community service event. Typically, our seniors go off to Boston. Our juniors are within the state of Massachusetts. Our sophomores are local within Gardner, Ashburnham, Leominster, and our freshmen are ultimately on campus. And it's a big day that we like to get out, and we like to have our students and our larger community really start to think about the impact that we can have, and especially like really what it means to be a part of our Cushing community. And then the other opportunity for community service occurs through our sports teams, it occurs through our dorms, and it can even occur through clubs. So this is the second year of a student-driven club called See No Plastic. And so for the past 2 years, they have gone up to the North Shore in Massachusetts, and they've actually participated in a day where they have picked up trash for the day at a beach cleanup. And so, again, like this is a student-led club. It's a student-driven club. And whenever these opportunities arise, we're always looking to, kind of take that voice and move forward with it. We're also really trying to work locally with Habitat for Humanity, and making sure, again, that we are really starting to see, or students are starting to see, that impact that they're having through the year. But currently, we do not have a certain amount of hours. So I know I've seen some questions that have asked for, are there a certain amount of hours that you need to have for community service to graduate? And we do not have that requirement at this point.
Great. Thank you. A few questions on COVID-19 and how that's going to impact our summer program and how we're dealing with that during the spring semester. So certainly we've recently made the decision to begin online learning on April 6th. Our spring break was a little bit late this year, so we're still on spring break now officially. That break has been extended into next week. We're going to start April 6th online and continue for the remainder of the semester. We haven't made any decisions on summer program or anything after that, which a few questions in the chat had asked, but we will certainly be sending information as we receive updates. We know this has been rapidly changing, especially over the last couple of weeks. So if you have individual questions about, there were some international families that looked like asked some questions about visas and things like that. I think that's probably for an individual conversation with the admissions office, depending on what country you're coming from and what your visa requirements are. But certainly we can answer all of those and work with you to allow you to choose Cushing. For our seniors, do you think Cushing prepares you for college and beyond? And maybe you could talk about, since it's the spring, what that process has been like for you and maybe where you're headed for next year or where you are in that process.
Absolutely. It's prepared, me for college and beyond, and then some. Just the maturity, I think, that you gain throughout your journey at Cushing kind of, forms kind of what your next chapter of your life's going to look like. And I feel totally prepared for it. I'm excited for it, but just the experiences I've had at Cushing, I know have prepared me for the future. And the college process is also very, it's hard. I don't know how to articulate the word I'm looking for, but their college counseling office is with you every step of the way. I mean, it's not stress-free. College systems are stress-free, but they relieve the majority of the stress for you, making sure deadlines are met, all that stuff. So, making the college decision, they help out in that area plenty. But even beyond that, just I think about, in college, when there's these bigger classes and stuff like that, I know that I'm not going to fall behind just because I know how to approach a teacher, right, and ask for help. Just little experiences like that. It's the little things, that I think are going to make the biggest difference. The ability to compromise with a roommate, I think, is going to be huge. But just, this more for boarding students, but that experience living away from home, and having, that structure where, time management, all of that, has really prepared me for the next chapter.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Dr. Willis, a question, not about academics, but I think you can take in athletics for students who are looking to be, if they're participating in varsity sports here, have students gone on to Division I options?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely. That's absolutely part of the process for a number of our varsity student athletes, really across programs, and something that our coaches are, prepared to support students in that. And actually our college counseling office in particular does a really wonderful job of that. And so there's a lot of conversation, communication between the two, between our varsity coaches and the folks in college counseling, to make sure that we are attending to eligibility issues throughout their career here so that we know that they're on that right path. And then also coaches in communication with their contacts and figuring out showcases and other opportunities to be seen. Certainly coaches are coming, college coaches are coming to our campus to see events, but we also know that finding opportunities to get them out and seen can be helpful as well. And so that's absolutely a process that's going on every season, every year, and that coaches here are paying attention to really both sides, sort of thinking about students that are coming into our program, but also really working with our students for that next placement, definitely.
Yeah, I actually was just looking today at some stats on the class of 2020, and there are 25 athletes in that class going on to athletics in college at all levels, Division 1, 2, 3, and AIA. And even in addition to that, some students playing club sports at a higher level. So definitely, as you said, happens in every sport, every season.
Manisa, can I kick back over to you? Because I know with the seniors, I'm Manisa's advisor. And Manisa has some braggability right now as the college process is ongoing and those answers are starting to come in. Manisa, will you talk a little bit about the college process and sort of where you are with things?
Yeah, so as for whether Cushing prepared me for college or not, I think it really helped me build habit, which I know I'll need in college. The structure really helped with that actually. And also independence from living in a boarding school, living in an environment that kind of simulates college, but with a lot of support so I can get comfortable with it. As for where I am in the process, I actually am just now trying to figure out where I'm going in the fall. I don't know for sure yet, but I have heard back from UCLA and William & Mary and have gotten in, but I'm still waiting to hear back from other colleges, so we'll see where that goes.
Thanks.
Congratulations. Josh, a few questions about the roommate process, and also can sophomores room with juniors? How does all that work? Getting a roommate and who lives with who?
Yeah, so the roommate process, over the summer, students will ultimately be sent what we call a roommate questionnaire. And so that questionnaire will ask you a lot of it, just a lot of questions, trying to get a gauge of kind of who you are as a person, what your sleep habits are, have you had a roommate before, what you like for music, and just, I think there's usually about 10 to 15 questions that we ask. And then with that information, we look at our incoming students, we look at some of our returning students who would actually like to room with a roommate, and we work with our admission office. And we take all that information. It's kind of a big puzzle. It's actually pretty fun. And we go through each student, and we really try to, based on the information that they've shared, we try to really anticipate what would be best for them as they enter Cushing and as they come in, just into our community. And so, we really try to have, as I mentioned earlier, grade levels stay the same. So like we really try to have freshmen room with freshmen or freshmen room with sophomores. We do currently, really where we start to delineate between our students is that sophomore to junior year, where that starts to kind of impact some of our lights out time. And so, there are cases where sophomores will room with juniors. And if that is the case, that is a conversation that we'll try to be having with those students on day one, and also with the dorm parents, just to make sure that the room, again, is, as to echo what a lot of the students have said, are building those healthy habits and are really building that structure. So as they get ready for that next phase, they're really ready to embrace that. And it's just really habit.
Great. Question here about the visual arts. Student, I love the visual arts. Can you tell me more? What happens, sorry, my bad. What happens if a student gets ill while on campus? Same person, two different questions. So why don't we take the first on the visual arts? Any student experience that you'd like to share? I know all students have to do an art per year, and Grace, you talked about performances. Ryan, you talked about the fused glass. Anything you'd want to elaborate on any of that?
I would just say that for the visual arts, there's definitely, if you're a beginner, there's always classes for you, and there's also advanced classes. So I've never been much of an art person, and I went into beginners fused glass, last semester, and I fell in love with it, and I wasn't great at it by any means, but I definitely learned a lot. And if you're definitely interested in visual arts, for your afternoon activity, you can pick one and use that as your art credit, or you can also take classes throughout the day too.
Great.
Yeah, I just say, you know, with the 1 semester a year art requirement, I also never really thought I had an artistic bone in my body, but I took metalsmithing my first 3 years, and then this year I actually switched over to fused glass, but I had a blast in all of them. I'm just learning the different skills, stuff like that. And metalsmithing, we got to play around with this torch thing, which was fun for me because, you know, when you're younger, they always say never play with fire. So I found that to be a pretty cool experience. But, you know, you kind of surprise yourself with what you can make. You know, I mean, I'm not creating any Mona Lisas or anything, but, you know, I've made a couple of jewelry pieces, right, for some family members, and they love it because it's like you made it. But it's just a fun, different thing to explore if you're not interested in it. But if you are, you know, an artistic person and your passion is visual arts, there's like plenty of opportunity for you, and there's plenty of different, you know, courses like all like painting and drawing, photography, all that stuff that you can pick and choose from.
Great. And the second question was, what happens if a student gets ill while on campus? Josh, do you want to take that?
Yeah, we are very fortunate. We have a health center actually on our campus. And so our health center is open 24 hours a day, seven days a week. So typically if students are sick, they're asked to report to the health center, where our staff of nurses will evaluate what's going on, you know, and they're able to provide care. We have 3 or 4 beds in our health center as well. So if someone needs to take a nap during the day, or, you know, just to kind of take a rest, you know, that can occur there as well. And you know, just kind of based on our location, we are about 15 minutes away from a hospital. So if any students would, you know, have a broken bone or any serious injury, we have a very efficient system to ultimately transport students there, you know, just to make sure that they're getting the care and support that they need in that moment.
Great. A couple quick ones that I can answer. Do the dorms have kitchens? Certainly there are common kitchens in some of the dorms for students, but most of the time dorms would probably work with faculty, and there are faculty apartments in each of the dorms, and oftentimes those become communal events, whether it's cooking or just spending time with groups of students and faculties in apartments or around a meal or a snack or an evening activity. Oftentimes that's how students have access to kitchens. When are the best times parents visit, and how often can they visit? Josh, do you want to take that?
Yeah, we see parents on campus all times of the day, all hours of the day. I see Grace's dad on campus, what, 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh yeah.
So our parents are welcome to campus whenever they can make it. You know, if they would like to attend a class, we're more than welcome to open our doors. We just ask that they just kind of give us a heads up, you know, just that they're going to be entering the class, and you know, that, you know, and we can make this as interactive as they want. Most of the time that we see our parents come to campus is usually for those larger events. So usually on Wednesdays, usually on Fridays, usually on Saturdays. And, you know, parents are always welcome to share a meal with us or chat with advisors.
Okay, great. Josh, related to the health center, talk a little bit about medication. What are you allowed to have in your room?
Yeah, so we are bound by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So anything that's a controlled substance, no matter age, ultimately needs to be in the health center. And we even ask at this point that melatonin is in the health center as well. So what students can really have is they can have most over-the-counter things if they're ultimately checked by our health center staff. And whenever a student has any questions, again, Dr. Bertin talked about that partnership. You know, we always encourage families and students just to kind of let us know, you know, kind of what they have, if they have any ailments, what those ailments may be, and how we're ultimately able to support.
Great. I know we're just over an hour, and we still have 93 attendees, which I really appreciate everyone sticking with us for this time. So I'll just for two more questions. It seems like there's a few questions around the theme of just what's normally in a room. How can you describe it? How many beds? How far is the restroom? That kind of thing. Just logistics of a dorm room. Maybe students, do you want to describe sort of your spaces?
Yeah, so it depends on, if you have like a single or a double, that kind of thing. So I've always, all 4 years, had a double. And my rooms have been different every year. So like this year and last year, I had a couch in my room. I've always had a TV. You can have, like your Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, console you use. You have to be using them at the right times, obviously. You can't have like fridges or like an AC unit, right? Like big stuff that uses a lot of power, but you can really decorate it however you want. Posters, all that kind of stuff. You can move the beds around, the desks around, the dressers around. I always just like suggest that you just use the space you have. And you're going to live there for 10 months out of the year. So you kind of got to make it your own little home. So whether that's putting up, Christmas lights or LED lights or, something like that, just making the place cozy, laying an area rug, that kind of thing. Just making it yours,
Yeah, so I live in Alumni, which is a dorm with over 80 girls, and there's 4 main floors that each, it's kind of divided by grade level. They try to do that. But for general, it's basically each floor has 2 bathrooms and 5 showers. I'm not sure. But I have a weird room this year where I have my own bathroom, which I don't know why, but it's really nice.
Yeah, there are a few of those. Manisa, anything to add?
Yeah, so I'm in Lee. I actually have a single, so I just have 1 bed, a desk, no roommate, which is nice, nice for me. And we also have 1 bathroom, but it is bigger. So, and since they're all single rooms, there aren't as many girls on 1 floor. So it's actually very accessible to everyone. I've never gone in not being able to use something I wanted to use. So yeah.
Great. Last one, and there are a few like this, so I'll put it to our seniors. Maybe Manisa, if you want to take a shot at it first, since you're already on my screen anyway. How do you feel about ending the year online?
I don't feel great about it, for sure. This is not what any of the seniors envisioned when we imagined the end of our years at Cushing. But of course, this time is very unprecedented. We never expected any of this to happen. And I personally understand why Cushing has chosen to end the school year online. I think our safety, the community safety, is of utmost importance, and we definitely respect the decision. But obviously, as a senior, it's not ideal, but we're excited. I think I'm personally excited to see everyone online, even if it is just through a screen. I'm excited to see everyone and spend time with them in any way that I can, because these are our last few days.
Ryan, anything to add?
Yeah, it's obviously a really difficult situation for everybody involved, and it's not just us, it's, the world as a whole that's kind of facing this challenge, something that's unprecedented, we've never seen before. But I've been just trying to find a silver lining out of it. And I've been with my roommates, my same roommate from freshman year. We've stuck together. He's my best friend. Just in conversations with him and other guys, it's really just been this eye-opening moment where, I've seen a lot of posts on Instagram with this stuff, all these people kind of everybody's just kind of shocked by it, and it's definitely difficult because it's not the goodbye we planned. But it's, for your close friends, it's obviously not a goodbye. You're going to see them again eventually, but it's sad in the moment to, kind of have it all be over that quickly. But my takeaway from it is just the gravity of the relationships that you build while you're here. Just, all of our friends, with talking to each other, on the verge of tears over over this, just because it's a sad thing. You know, you're saying goodbye through a computer screen, and it's tough because you really want to be there with them for your senior spring, and you want to spend, you know, your last 2 months with them, and to have that taken away, it's tough. But, you know, there's no other group I'd want to, you know, face this with. You know, there's no other group I think I could get through it with. And I know that with them and with the support of the faculty that, you know, we'll be able to get through it and we'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely tough all around. Thank you for your honesty. So we're going to end our time. We're a little bit over, and again, thanks for sticking with us. We do have the list of the questions, and we know who asked them. So if we didn't get to you, we'll make sure that we try to reach out individually. Just as a reminder, there are still a number of one-to-one conversations available on the Reexplore Cushing page with Dr. Willis, with Josh, with me. We'll also be sending emails to all of our accepted students out this week with a number of opportunities to re-explore Cushing even deeper with, like I mentioned before, sort of walk around tours on campus so you can get to see buildings, spaces, rooms, facilities, anything that you didn't get to see maybe on a visit or during our conversation tonight that you thought of that you'd like to learn more about or explore further. Let us know, and either through those one-on-one conversations, through conversations with the person you worked with in admissions, or through ongoing visits to that website where you can see videos and other materials that we posted. We hope that we can give you a good picture of what it looks and feels like to be part of the Cushing community. So thank you again to our panelists for joining. Thanks to our attendees. And I hope everyone has a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.